This week, the letter I'm reading inspired me to start another series, and it is going to be a series on emotional abuse. Hello, Annie. How are you doing? I love your show. Thank you. I like making it. This is embarrassing, but I keep having unprotected sex with this guy I just started seeing, even though I don't want to. I know better, but it's like something takes over me when he's around, and before you know it, he's inside. Wow, I didn't screen this letter. He's inside and we are doing the thing. There's something about the guy I can't really explain. It's not like he's even so fine or anything, but he just has a way of commanding me, and it's like my stubbornness just melts around him. I even said I would stop going to his place so that we won't have sex until he agrees that we don't do it, until he agrees that we do it with a condom. But it's like jazz. One day I'm in my house, and the next thing I find myself in his house, and we are effing each other passionately. I have asked him many times to use a condom, but he says he doesn't enjoy doing it. And if I really loved him, I would want us both to enjoy the experience. I am afraid that if I insist we use a condom, he will decide he doesn't want to have the relationship anymore. And I am beginning to fall for this guy. Plus, the sex, I love it too much. I love it too much to walk away just like that. I'm not proud of it, but it's like when I'm with him, I forget my senses until he has finished, and then I will now remember that we didn't use protection yet again, and then I start feeling bad and scared and praying that I don't get pregnant. But I always feel like I've done something wrong afterwards. I once told him that I wouldn't continue having sex with him unless he wears a condom, and I told him I was serious that time, but he still didn't agree, and we still ended up having sex that day. This is serious. He keeps insisting that he doesn't like condoms because they reduce the pleasure, and that he's careful and I won't get pregnant. But I still feel like something's wrong with what he's doing, and I don't know why he won't listen to me. If he really likes me, shouldn't he? How do I get him to use her condom without causing us to fight, and then he leaves? All right, let us get into today's episode.
Now, let's figure out if you're being bamboozled.
Welcome to another beautiful Monday. You know that Mondays are Bambazel days, where we help you uncover the truth behind your relationships. I am your host, Annie Itcher, and I love spending my Mondays with you guys. Now, today's I got this letter a few weeks ago, but we were doing the types or trauma series, and so I had to keep the letters that I was getting aside so that we could finish that series. But immediately I got this DM. I knew that this was the first thing that we were going to do when we return back to reading people's letters. And I thought about it, and the first thing that came to my mind was, there's the makings of a series in here. And so for the next 4 weeks, we are going to be talking about emotional abuse. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gents. It's gonna get a bit bumpy, but I think I know how to fly this plane. All right, we're gonna be talking about emotional abuse for the next 4 weeks. I can't tell you where this is gonna go because a lot of the stuff that I do, even though I do write it down and I do research, sometimes when I start talking, the spirit just takes over and we go as the spirit leads. So what I can guarantee you is that you're in safe hands, and even if it is a hard truth, we will communicate it in a kind way. That is my ethos. So let's get into it. We're going to start with defining emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is a form of manipulation and control that can and will leave very deep scars. It includes behaviors like gaslighting, belittling, and constant criticism that wear down a person's self-worth, self-esteem, and erodes their identity. Unlike physical abuse, emotional abuse is often subtle and insidious, making it really hard to recognize. But just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's any less damaging. In fact, emotional abuse can and does have long-lasting effects on a person's mental and emotional health. So, how do you know if what you're experiencing is emotional abuse? Let's break it down. Number 1 on the list, gaslighting. In the letter that was written to us, I don't know how many of you who listened to the read can identify where the gaslighting was. I want to, if this was a live, I would have been like, oh, okay, how many people can say it in the comments, say it in the live? Unfortunately, we're not doing lives yet. But I want to believe that if you've been following this channel for the last few weeks, you can sort of maybe identify where the gaslighting was. But just so that we're all on the same page, she said to him, she doesn't feel comfortable, she doesn't feel safe having sex without protection. And he says to her, he is an expert, I'm paraphrasing obviously, he's an expert at, his pull-out game is clearly, apparently amazing, and she's safe and nothing is going to happen. He didn't even bother with her discomfort. All he focused on was, you have nothing to be worried about. My pull-out game is great. It's not about the fact that you feel uncomfortable with unprotected relations. It's about my pleasure, what I want. So that was one point that I could identify, some really heavy gaslighting. And another point was, she talked to him, told him, today, in fact, I'm not doing it. And then he said, but if you really love me, you'd care about my pleasure. And they ended up doing it that day. All right, so what is gaslighting? Ladies and gentlemen, can we actually talk about it? Because I know that right now we're in a time where there's a lot more access to psychological terms and psychological speak, and sometimes it can be misused, to be honest. So let's define gaslighting. I want to tell you where this term came from. If I remember correctly, I think it was a film, and the film was actually called Gaslighting, where this husband was trying to make his wife think she had lost her mind. He was doing things to intentionally confuse his wife, to make her think that she had lost her mind and she had gone insane. Things like hiding her keys. So let's say she puts her keys here, he would move the keys and put them somewhere else. And she would go and she's like, but I'm sure I kept my keys here. And he'd be like, well, no, maybe you just started forgetting things, And people think that until she eventually lost her mind, essentially. So that's where the term gaslighting comes from. Now, people think it's not such a big deal. Like, why is that such a bad thing if someone tells a little white lie? Let me explain why gaslighting is very, very dangerous. Gaslighting is designed to make a person doubt their reality. Not even just their reality, doubt what is actually happening. Worse still, it makes the person who has been gaslit multiple times or over and over for a long time, it makes them doubt their own ability to decipher and separate what is real from what is not. Now, what is the effect of that? If your mind or your brain is not able to say what is real and what isn't, do you see how that puts you in a position for someone else to tell you what is real and what isn't? That's why gaslighting is such an awfully abusive tactic. An example of gaslighting, let's say I'm the abuser and I feel like the person that I'm in a relationship with is becoming more difficult for me to control. And let's say when we have an argument, I'm the one that yells. I'm the one that shuts down. I'm the one that stonewalls. I'm the one that gets really angry for no reason. We're having a conversation, me and my partner. And I take the thing that I do and I make it something that they do. I tell my partner that I'm beginning to doubt whether this relationship is really good for me, because whenever I'm trying to just have a simple conversation with you, you lash out at me. Now, my partner, who probably doesn't even yell at all, starts to wonder, wait, what did I say? When did I say it? How did I say it? That is, the seed has been sown. And that is when the confusion starts to set in. And so your partner now takes that note. My partner who is a normal person takes note of that and says, oh my goodness, I was yelling at her or him. I need to be careful with that, because a healthy person does not want to hurt their partner. They don't. So when they hear that something is being done that hurts their partner, the immediate reaction is to say, oh, how can I fix that immediately? How can I make sure that doesn't happen again? And so this person who was never yelling before, who was approaching their partner in a healthy way, but probably they called the partner out on something that the partner actually did that they shouldn't have done. And this partner thought to themselves, okay, this person is getting out of the grips of my control. I need to bring them back under submission. I've planted the seed in that person's mind that they're always yelling at me. So next time when they want to talk to me about something, they're going to be even more submissive, even more subdued, until it gets to the point where they don't bring things up at all. So if you know something happened and the person you're with is trying to convince you that it didn't happen, that's gaslighting. If they yelled at you and you said, oh, but why did you yell at me? They say, I didn't do that. That is gaslighting. When a person intentionally tries to confuse you and like it's like a mental dribble. You go there, they shift the ball. You go there, they shift the ball. You go there, they shift the ball. That is gaslighting. When a person gives you the silent treatment and you say you were giving the silent treatment, they say, no, I was just giving you your space. That is gaslighting, because if you're giving a person their space, you check in with them. You don't stop talking to them for days and then come and say, I was giving you your space. That is gaslighting. Another example of emotional abuse is constant criticism. Now, in a country like Nigeria, with Nigerian parents, we've turned it into a joke. Like how our parents, tough love, what we call tough love. Oh, you didn't wash the plate well. Oh, you didn't make your bed well. Oh, you don't wake up on time. Oh, you're too lazy. Oh, you're so clumsy. Oh, you're whatever. Even that, when you have a parent that is consistently criticizing everything you do, there is nothing that you do that your mother will be completely pleased or father will be completely pleased. They must always find something to pick at. And they cover it under the guise of, it's because I love you, I want you to be better, that's why. That is actually emotional abuse. Consistent, constant, unending, niggling criticism is emotional abuse. People should be able to be human around you, make their mistakes, if at all they're making mistakes, or do things in the way that they deem fit without you cutting them down. And the thing about criticism is that it attacks most abusers when they're criticizing you. They're not criticizing what you've done. Their criticism of what you've done turns into a criticism of you, of who you are. So an example of constant criticism, I already talked about parents that seem just impossible to please. And if you manage to please them for a little time, you know that it's temporary because something is going to go wrong again, and it is usually your fault. So that's an example. Another example within the dynamic of an intimate relationship, if you have this feeling that nothing I do is actually ever enough, it is very possible that you're being emotionally abused. Now, I have to clarify that it's a different thing if you are the abuser and you gaslight your partner into thinking that whatever you do is not good enough for them when you don't even do the bare minimum. Let's not confuse both things. This your abusive partner does not ever want to be called out on their bullshit, right? So you're talking to them about the things that they're doing bad. That triggers them. They don't like that. So instead of saying, hey, listen, I don't want you to correct me on anything I do. I think I'm perfect. I think the way I do things is fine. Obviously, that makes the person sound like they're mad. So they say, when you're talking to me, you're shouting, and I don't like it. It makes it difficult for me to hear what you're saying. So you, that's the healthy partner, goes, oh, I don't want to be yelling at my boyfriend. I don't want to be yelling at my girlfriend. Okay, I'm not going to yell. So they do something they shouldn't do. You bring it up in the softest manner. Sweetheart, I'd like to speak with you. They say, yeah, sure. That thing you did, I didn't think it was right. They're triggered. You can see them getting upset. It is not how you tell them that's the problem. It is that you tell them. That's the problem. But they don't want to tell you that because saying that, like I said before, it exposes their toxicity. So now they come back and say, you pick the wrongest times to talk about things. Like you need to figure out like the right time. Every time is not the right time to talk about things. So before it was that you were shouting. Now you're not shouting anymore. It's that your timing is wrong. Then you say, okay, what do you feel is like the best time to talk about things? And they say, it's not immediately I come home from work. So you don't talk to them when they come back from work. You give them like 2-3 hours to talk about the things that you need to talk about. That is still a problem because remember, the issue is not your volume. It is not the timing. It is that they don't want to be corrected. So you talk to them 2 hours after they come back from work. And then the next thing is that, listen, the tone of your voice when you talk, like you talk to me as if you're talking to like a fool, like someone who can't reason, like someone who doesn't understand things. You be talking to me like I'm a 5-year-old. So you now go back again to the drawing board. You will not shout. You won't talk to them immediately they come back from work. And you also have to find a way not to talk to them like they are a 5-year-old. Do you see where I'm going with this? No matter what you do or how you try to do it, it is not enough. It is not right enough. It is not excellent enough. Now, this goes further with more malignant abusers. They will actually criticize the way you cook. They'll criticize the way you dress. They'll criticize the way you look. They want to find things to break down about you. So let's say you wear red lipstick and you look fire in that red lipstick. Your abusive boyfriend is triggered, his insecurities are triggered, doesn't want you wearing red lipstick because everybody's giving you compliments. Guess what? He goes and tells you, I like it when you wear that other lipstick. This one, when you wear it, it makes your mouth look like it's very fat. And he will go. The girlfriend who loves her boyfriend, who is not aware of what abuse is, doesn't realize why every time she goes back to pick up that red lipstick, she just puts it down. The seed has been planted. They're always picking at you. That is emotional abuse. A third thing that is emotional abuse, isolation. Abusers, emotionally abusive people, toxic people, narcissistic people, people who are not emotionally healthy. One of the main things they want to do is isolate you. Isolation does not necessarily mean taking you to the woods somewhere or to the bush somewhere and you people just go and be living in the bush. No. Even though sometimes it can be that extreme. Isolation can look like you're on the phone with your sister. You guys usually talk 3 hours every day. You're dating this new guy. You're dating this new girl. You and your sister are on the phone laughing, 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 laughing. You get off the phone, you go to go sit with your boyfriend in the living room, you go to go sit with your girlfriend in the living room, and all of a sudden they're giving you an attitude. And you're like, what's the problem? Nothing. Are you good? Yeah. What's going on? Nothing. As far as you know, before you left to go and talk with your sister on the phone, you and this person were good. Then you realize that this happens a number of times. It is when you hang out with your friends, it's when you hang out with your family, it's when you meet up with your colleagues at work or whatever, you get this attitude from this person. And so you start to reduce your contact with people, not because you don't like your people anymore, but because you don't like the effect and the feeling you get when your partner is giving you a stank attitude, sometimes giving you the silent treatment, sometimes not talking to you, sometimes making the environment so difficult to be in. You notice it happens when you're with your people. So you start to reduce the time you spend with your people. That's one way it presents. Another way that isolation happens is they start to try to drive a wedge between you and that person that you're close to. An abuser can create a bold-faced lie about the person that they feel most threatened by in your life. The person that they feel will most threaten their control over you. So that is another way that isolation happens. So they drive wedges between you and people that you are very close to, people that you love, and people that they deem have an influence over you. A third way that isolation occurs is when this person actually takes you away from your support system, takes you away from the people that you love, takes you away from the people that love you. Listen, let me explain something to you. We all need support systems. It's the way that human beings were created. It's the way that human beings were designed. So an abuser knows that you are not going to be able to survive without having a support system. So guess what? They take away your support system. And what does that do to you? They become your support system. Because you need support. All right, let's quickly move over to emotional blackmail. Now, emotional blackmail is very, very subtle, very insidious. Because sometimes it can come across as this person is just being vulnerable with me. So, let's say two siblings. One sibling is the toxic one sibling is the healthy one. They are both going at it. The toxic sibling says something downright nasty and hurtful and cutting to their sibling. And then the other one says, you can't talk to me like that. That's an awful thing to say. And the toxic sibling, instead of copying to it and saying, oh, I'm sorry, that was an awful thing for me to say, they go, so if I can't be honest with you, my sister, my brother, who should I be able to be honest with? I can't tell you the truth. I can't tell you my mind. I feel so caged and locked up in this family because I can never be honest. You can be honest, but being honest does not mean being unkind. Being honest does not mean being a bitch, and being honest does not mean being an asshole. You can be kind without being cutting. So when an abusive or toxic person cuts someone else and they are called out for it, they switch to emotional blackmail and say things like, this is why I never want to go anywhere with anybody, because when I go now, if I talk, everybody will say I am bad. Watch out for that. Or they switch to crying. They can cry and be like, oh, I was only trying to take care of you. I was only trying to be honest with you because I care about you. I mean, what do I gain from making you feel bad? I was just only being honest. Meanwhile, they have said or done something that has really hurt you. And you try to hold them accountable. And they flip the tables. They flip the tables with rage. Rage is emotional blackmail. They flip the tables with fake sadness. That is emotional blackmail. They flip the tables with guilt tripping. So they make you carry the weight of their bad behavior. That is emotional blackmail. The community member that wrote to us, in her story, I want to believe that you could tell where the emotional blackmail was. He said, if you really loved me, that's emotion. Once you hear, if you really love me, you will do so and so, or you will not do so and so, pack it up, because that's emotional blackmail. I didn't say leave your relationship. I said pack up that conversation. That is emotional blackmail. When two healthy people are together, the question of if you really love me does not come up. And it is certainly not used as a tool to control either partner. Yes, if these are happening to you, you're being emotionally abused. Whether it's your parents doing it, your sibling doing it, your boyfriend doing it, your girlfriend doing it, your friend doing it. If someone does something that is wrong and shouldn't be done, something that is inappropriate, something that causes hurt and pain to another person, and they cannot be held accountable for it, it's emotional abuse. If any of these things sound familiar to you, if you're experiencing any of these things, you're being emotionally abused. If you are doing any of these things, you are emotionally abusing others. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate your presence. I appreciate you being a part of this fast-growing community of ours. I hope that these thoughts have been somewhat helpful for you, and if they have, I ask that you please share them with someone else that you think would be helpful to as well. All right, you know what time it is? Sign off with your girl. In life, we can always do better or we can do worse. Let us try to be in the former more than we are in the latter. Stay safe out there in those relationship streets. Make sure that you are not bamboozling or being bamboozled by your bae. I will see you again in the next episode. Until then, please let love guide you always. Bye for now.